Hello, good afternoon. I'm John Campbell. This is Philosophy 3, The Nature of Mind. So today, I just want to say something about what the main problems are that we'll be doing in the class. And start out with something, some administrative things. The two GSIs for the class will be Umra Sethi and Antonia Peacock over there. You want to say hi, guys? You want to say hi? Hi, Antonia. Hi, Umra. Okay, they will be running the sections that will be key to the class. This is a very interactive kind of class. You need to talk a lot. And the sections will allow you to express yourself more fully than is always possible in a lecture. So it's very important you get enrolled in a section, and we'll finish about 20 minutes early today so that you have time to fill in the cards the GSIs will give out and find yourself a time that suits you. The two set books for the class will be David Chalmers' collection in the Philosophy of Mind and John Perry's collection called Personal Identity. The B space isn't up yet, but we should have a B space for the class up in the next 24 hours. The first reading that would be good if you can do is for Wednesday. It's Thomas Nagel's famous article, What is it like to be a bat? A mine of information about bats. So try to take a look at that. Like most of the readings in the class, this is fairly brief, but like most of the readings in the class, is fairly dense. When you read one of the short pieces that we have in the class, typically you will get to the end of it and you will feel an intense desire to sleep. You will think, I do not know what that was about. And at that point, what you have to do is have faith both in the reading, that it actually makes sense, and in yourself, that you can crack it. You have at that point to go back to the beginning and do it all again. In the readings we'll do in this class, for the most part, it would be perfectly reasonable to spend a few hours on just a few paragraphs of any one of them. And there's something kind of fractal about the subject in that usually with these readings, if you spend a lot of time just getting straight what a particular few paragraphs say, then the rest of it will become pretty easy. But it's important to be ready to take it slow, to take it carefully. Okay, so the general problem we're going to look at is the relation between mind and brain. What is the mind? If we live in a physical world, where does the mind fit in? And people often say, well, what does philosophy have to say to this anyway? I mean, surely science is what is going to crack the mind-brain problem. Surely science is what is going to tell us ultimately what the mind is. But that gets things round the wrong way. It isn't really science that is solving the mind-brain problem. It's science that creates the mind-brain problem in the first place. It is only because we have a scientific method and such a thing as objective scientific understanding of the world that we really can see clearly what the contrast is between the ways in which we understand things scientifically and the ways in which we ordinarily understand human beings. If you think about what it takes to know well another person, what most people have said is some kind of imaginative understanding is what you need to really get into the head of another person. You need to know what the world looks like from their perspective. You have to understand how it is to be in the other person's shoes, to see what their take on the world is. That's what you need to understand the mind of another person. That's what you need to understand their motivations, why they do the things they do. But that kind of imaginative understanding seems absolutely different to the kind of scientific explanation you can have of aspects of the world around you. Suppose you find yourself sharing a house from someone from some quite alien culture, some culture you've really had very little encounter with, say New Zealand or Scotland or, something kind of unimaginably alien. And you think, well, what is going on with this person? Is he happy? Is he sad? I have no idea. What is happening there? Well, if you're a whiz at science, then you could put this person into a scanner. You could break them down. You could say, look, I get it, cell by cell, what is going on with this person. I can analyze them scientifically. You might be able to predict exactly what they will do. But at the end of that, would you have any idea what was going on with that person in the way you wanted? Would you know what it was like from their point of view? Well, obviously not, if all you've done is explain them as a deterministic physical system. What you want is some kind of imaginative understanding of the other person. And that's what you're missing here. So, with that by way of, that's going to be a big issue in the whole class. That contrast between our imaginative understanding of other human beings and a scientific explanation of what they're up to. But let's look at how, historically, science generates the mind-body problem. Here's the great historian of science, Alexander Koyré, describing one particularly annoying habit of Newtonians. When Newton was big, then he obviously had lots of disciples. And one point they made was, well, science has reduced the world. Science, they think, has shown that the environment around us consists of lots and lots of atoms. Not the familiar things, but just lots of atoms, mathematically describable, governed by mathematical laws. Not only are the heavenly spaces out there empty and void, but even the so-called solid bodies, the desks, the people, the floors that we stand on, even those are full of void. The particles that compose them are by no means closely packed together, but are separated from one another by void space. The Newtonians from Bentley on took an enormous pride and pleasure in pointing out that matter proper occupies a practically infinitesimal part of space. So just think for a moment, on the basis of whatever science you have, what is science telling you about this room right now? What is here right now? Other people? Colors? Smells? Tastes? Well, what does quantum mechanics tell you is here? Quarks? Gluons? Charm? Not in any social sense. Just these lonely clumps of particles floating in the void. No other people. Physics doesn't talk about people. But physics tells you everything that is here. If physics gives you an inventory, a list of everything that there is in the universe, it doesn't leave anything out. Once you've got all the physical facts about this sector of space-time, you've got the whole thing. But ordinary stuff just isn't there. Before physics, suppose you were a medieval peasant. Suppose you're a medieval peasant looking at a flower, looking at the tremulous beauty of this thing. It's open to you then to think the color, the smell, the particular delicate wonder of this thing are actually out there in the world. You can pick up on them. Other people can pick up on that same color, on that same smell, on that same beauty that you do. So before physics, you can think that your perception just relates you to the world the way it is. You're seeing stuff. You're just seeing what's really there. The stuff is really there, and you just happen upon it. So your visual experience is just connecting you to the stuff that's out there, and it connects other people to the same world. That's what's going on right now, right? There's a moment ago I went up to the back there to look at the screen. I take it I'm getting the same thing that you're getting. I check how it's going to seem to you by seeing how it seems to me. I think that color is out there for you to look at, for me to look at. But what physics is telling you is that's not so. What science is telling you is what's out there, what's there in the real world, is just a configuration of atoms. Wherever you think the fundamental particles and forces are, that's all that's really there. Is color there? Class, is color there, according to physics? No, absolutely not. The color is just something in your mind. The color is just something that stuff generates in your mind, and you project it onto the world. But that's a mistake. It's not really out there. You think it's out there, but it isn't. So after physics blows up the common sense picture of the world. Physics says what's going on is not at all that there are colors, smells, beauty out there for us all to pick up on. Physics says, well, what's going on is that configuration of atoms is generating a particular color experience in me, is generating a particular color experience in you. Might be the same experience, might be a different experience. Could you ever know? Could you know? Probably not. It cuts us off from each other. Physics divides us from each other. It says what's going on in your mind is quite different and maybe unimaginably different from what's going on in your mind. And in fact, after all, maybe what's going on in one of you, or maybe what's going on in me, is not consciousness at all. Maybe I've got all the right brain states to make me move and act more or less like a regular guy, but that's not the same as generating the consciousness. If that just got missed out in some people, you would never know. So physics is what generates these problems about the mind. Physics says, well, you can't ever know what's going on in other people's minds. You can't even know whether they have minds. Science doesn't solve the problem here. Science is what generates the problem. Science won't make it the case that there is a problem here to deal with. And if you think about it, the picture of the world that physics gives you is actually terrifying. And look, here is an artist's impression of what's in this space-time sector. What is there in the world? I mean, it's not really blue. It doesn't really have those shapes. It's unimaginably alien what's really here. None of the regular world is there. Your parents aren't there. Your pet dog isn't there. Just collections of atoms. So in that objective world, which science tells you is all there is there anything that it would be possible to care about? Gamma ray bursts, black holes. Who cares? None of that stuff has any practical significance. What science is telling you is that none of the world we care about is really there. So in that world, none of the things